Hello and welcome to
Hey, we like your pod.
It's Dawn here, and I'm joined by my trusted partner every Saturday as we all await game day. So, Maddie, how's it going?
It's going great. We're excited about the season about to start. Just a week away at this point. It's going to be a great season.
It is. And what are you up to this Saturday?
No, not too much. It's mostly just family time on the weekends for me. And then, of course, football on Sundays. Try to keep it kind of low key to kind of recover from, busy weeks and stuff.
Yeah, a little decompression. I'm spending my Saturday staring at the clock, waiting for game day, of course. And this week, it'll be an extra week plus staring at the clock 24 hours.
Yes.
Oh, so here we are, the very end of the preseason, and we're getting this episode out to our fine friends. So there's so much more to all of us than fandom or love for the game. And my guess is all of us have more than one thing in common. That's kind of my theory in life. So how about if we just take a few minutes, this episode only, a special premiere episode, to help everyone to get to know us a little bit better and each other to get to know one another a little bit better before we get into this week's content and superlatives.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. You're up for it. So
let's do it.
Okay, Maddie. Your Twitto bio said Twitto. Did I say Twitto?
Twitto. Yeah, it's called Twitto.
Twitto. That's a new. I'm gonna say that from now on. Your Twitto says, husband, father, puzzle solver, academic advisor, former and future trombonist. I would say current trombonist.
Kind of current.
Yeah. Go, Matt. Ardent Packers fan, of course. More coffee, please, and a donut, which is adorable, at heywlyp. Hey, WLYP. So would you mind telling us your Packer origin story and maybe a little bit more about your general excellence?
General excellence. Oh, yeah. I served under him in the military. So, I grew up in Wisconsin, in a small town next to Madison. And my dad was a big Packers fan. When I was little, I didn't really understand what I was watching and stuff like that, but I like spending time with my dad. So, every Sunday I'd be there with him. And over time, I eventually got more curious about what the game was because, I just didn't get it. And so I started asking questions, started getting into it. And over time, got more interested, more invested. My fandom grew and really took off after I left Wisconsin. Once I, moved away from the state and I left Wisconsin at the age of 23. So I've been away from there for 20 years now, I guess. That's the quick math. And yeah, it's funny. I've talked to a lot of people who are Packers fans who, grew up in Wisconsin and leave. It seems like it always gets more intense for them after they go. But yeah, so I've had a career in music education initially. I taught in some high schools and a middle school over time. And now I work as an academic advisor for undeclared students at the University of Cincinnati. It's a great job. So kind of a career in education. And, I guess cut to this point where I have a couple wonderful kids, good home life, all that kind of stuff. And just listen to a ton of podcasts every week. Love to interact with people on Twitter, on Packers Twitter, especially. It's good life. It's good life. How about you, Dawn? Tell us about you. Or do you have any questions for me first?
Actually? Yeah. Kind of picture perfect. You have two girls, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, besides your girl, right?
Besides my woman.
Your lady. So how old are your little ones? Are they going back to school now? Are they back in school?
Yep. They're both in elementary school.
Oh, wow. In real school or Zoom school?
Real school.
Real school.
For now. We'll see what happens with stuff. Yeah. Let's just,
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Are they excited about being back to school?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wonderful. So you're surrounded by girls.
Yep. It's good life.
And do they love Packers?
The little ones, it's a work in progress. We'll see.
Yeah. Start young. Maybe explain it to them a little bit. I mean, because even what you said, you didn't understand what was going on. I certainly. So I'll tell you a little about myself. I'm a city girl. I'm from Wisconsin, but I'm living in a beachy world, I like to say, here in San Diego. And but I do love to travel, but I am a Wisconsin native, and I left Wisconsin when I was about 25. So similar story as you, but I'm a little bit older than you. So it was more than half of my life I've been out here. So this is home to me. And yes, it's true. I do not eat condiments. That's been the subject of many discussions. I just had to put it out there because it does become a problem sometimes when you're at a game and everybody's like, why aren't you, what? Anyway, I don't eat condiments. We can discuss that maybe on one episode.
It'll come up, I'm sure.
What I eat instead, I think I eat very well, thank you. And I didn't like football, even though I was from Wisconsin. Mostly probably because I didn't understand it, like yourself. It's a little hard to like something that you're not really understanding. I didn't like beer or bratwurst either. So I was kind of an outcast. Best auntie ever in the planet. And I do very much relate to the aunt in the Geico commercials. And I will correct your grammar. Let's see, my background, you talked a little about your interesting career in education. My background's in art and marketing and branding. I teach graphic design now and content creation, and I've spent decades in fashion. So yes.
And you spend hours on all the behind the scenes stuff on this podcast. Oh my goodness.
You know, I'm like a little assembly line when it comes to art anymore. And there will be some heywlyp merch coming because I've already been designing things for us. So that'll be fun too. I'm going to be looking forward to doing that. So I guess you can take the girl out of Wisconsin, but you can't take Wisconsin out of the girl, because I became a Packer fan, kind of a little convoluted. Packers, of course, were a big part of my family life. I remember visiting the team for practice in summer. Obviously, going to the games winter was not my favorite thing, still isn't. Not because I don't like snow. I just don't like being cold or wet or generally uncomfortable.
So snow's not great though. I mean, for
it's
real.
Pretty. I mean, it's pretty to look at if you're inside.
Yep.
You know? But I remember asking my big brother if I could play football in the yard. We would take turns playing Bart Starr. That should tell you a little bit about my age. I think he got his autograph at one of the practices, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of remember the Ice Bowl, but I feel like all the games were like the Ice Bowl. I don't know. I know a lot of people were there. But I do vividly remember being on vacation with my family the day that Vince Lombardi died. It was tragic. It was I never ever remember anything in my life, in my childhood, and there were family members who had, we lost in accidents but when Vince was gone, man, we weren't allowed to even peep, because my dad was so upset, and the rest of the family too. So I remember that day vividly. So I wasn't a fan. I thought football was a little too violent for my taste, but about a decade ago, I met an elderly woman, believe it or not, really elderly, more elderly than me. And she was a major Packer fan. She's a walking encyclopedia, not just about Packers, but about all sports. She took me under her wing, and now my family's thrilled to have me back. And I'm learning everything I can about the game. I still don't know anything. I still don't understand what I'm seeing, but I love every minute. I cannot get enough of it. So my sister Lori is like always, I think every week I have a question for her. So she's very patient with me. And of course, the Packer community on Twitter is so great. And it's how I met you.
That's right. Exactly.
I did a mock draft with you. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so welcoming, and no one has ever made me feel, well, I shouldn't say no one ever, but generally people don't make you feel like you're too dumb. I mean, everyone's on a learning curve, and I love that, how welcoming and fun it is. And I don't feel like, a total nerd or outcast, even though I am. So let's get into it. Hey,
yeah, let's do this.
So where are we at in football season? Well, the preseason is officially over, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 53 rosters are out. The practice teams are in, right? That's official.
Yeah.
And football is in just over a week.
And so I thought it'd be cool if you tell us what your favorite sport is, who your favorite team is, your favorite musical instrument or genre. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to say, football and Packers, but of course, there's a lot of room for different opinions there.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. We want to hear all of your faves, and you may be listening to us because you're a Packer fan, but you may not be a Packer fan. You may have another team. You might not even like sports or football. You might like another sport.
You might just be my mom,
Exactly. You might just be required to because you're our grandmother. Yeah, I like that idea. Tell us all about you, the listener, everyone who's listening to us. Comment wherever your social media is home, because we have we have a presence on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. At least for now, you can find us in all those places. So, or just come wherever you want to and meet the Twitter folks, because if you're a Facebook person, you're not on Twitter, you're missing out. There's a whole different vibe in each platform, of course. So, but yeah, there's one contest we've already got going on. We're going to have some contests laced throughout our podcast, maybe monthly or something along those lines. But we already have a contest rolling, right, Matt? And it's regarding our theme song. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the music we use for the show is music that I actually, I could say, composed, I suppose, and recorded. And when I was thinking it up, I was composing it, you could say, I actually had words that go with it. So we're kind of curious to see if you were to write lyrics to go with our theme music, what they might be. So, just throw them in a comment, or tweet at us or whatever to give us your take on what the lyrics are for our theme music.
That sounds great. And this week, I'd also like to, pat you on the back, Matt, for that spreadsheet creativity. I love me some good spreadsheet, and I want to hear more about that. So before we do that, though, I will have to say this week, and maybe that's why I just went out and bought a kitten, because I was kind of depressed, and this is the worst time of the year for me. The season for me is saying goodbye to all those hardworking people who tried out, not just for our team, but all across the NFL. And it's just really hard to say goodbye to some people that we really have come to care about. And so I'd just like to say a moment, not get too sappy, but just take a moment to let everyone who didn't make a team to know that you still always have a place in our hearts, and you're welcome as in the Packer family and Packer Twitter family. I know everyone feels that way. So Maddie, do we have any time left? Do we have a few minutes to hear about your superlatives for the week? Do you have, or maybe your spreadsheet? What do you want to tell us about?
Yeah. A little bit of both of those things. So the spreadsheet that we're talking about here is that I had compiled a bunch of different people's 53-man roster predictions. I actually got a total of, I want to say it was 17 different predictions. I'll hit some kind of the highlights, some of the interesting points here. First of all, for the offense, like everybody agreed it was going to be, 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers. The numbers are the same. A couple people thought we'd keep Kurt Benkert on the 53. Actually, just one person did. That was actually Zachary Jacobson. In fact, if I could take a second, I'd just shout out the people whose predictions I looked at here. Just a quick list of these. It was Andy Herman, Maggie Loney, Matt Schneidman, Bill Huber, Paul Brettel, Adam, who I don't know his last name, but he's on Twitter, APV22, Jason B. Hirschhorn, Zachary Jacobson, Zach Cruz, Ken Ingalls, Katie Sunderman, me, Eric Rose, Jersey Al, Brian Maffey, I don't know how your name is pronounced, man. I hope I got that right. Big B, and JJ Leahy. So those were the players involved here.
Wow.
Just the one person, Zachary Jacobson, thought we have Benkert on the 53. The tight end, again, everybody said the same 4 for that, so that was unanimous. Getting the O-line, the core O-line, I think everyone had that picked out. But a lot of people thought it was going to be Ben Braden in there, except for Katie Sunderman. She got that one right, so I was really impressed by that.
Katie.
When you get to sort of like the more of the second, third string for the O-line, that's where it kind of like broke down a little bit. But I was really impressed with her getting that one right. Yeah. Some people thought Cole Van Lanen would be in. He made the practice squad, which I'm happy about. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of what the offense looked like. For the defense, pretty much everybody guessed the correct people for the D line, except for only 5 people said Tyler Lancaster, but everyone said all the other guys for that. For the outside linebackers, it was just one person looking at Tipa Naliai, and that was Brian. So one he missed there to kind of make up for them before he had. And not a lot of people for Chauncey Rivers, but he made it in. I have to say, because I'm a big fan of Chauncey Rivers. I'm really glad he made the team. So about half the people said they thought he'd be in. And just kind of wrap this up quickly here. Andy Herman was the lone voice for Ray Williborn and the inside linebackers. I actually asked him about that, and he said that for him, it was going to be a mix of athleticism. I'll get the quote here. He said because of his potential for special teams, athleticism, coverage ability, and of course, linebacker, he said it was a long shot, but there's always one, and he thought he might be it. Of course, it ended up being Hansen was kind of the person who took that sort of spot, basically. Not in that position group, of course, but And then otherwise, a lot of unanimous opinions. 2 folks thought would be keeping Thump, Ennis Gaines, on the team. Of course, he didn't make the 53, but he's on the practice squad. And, actually the one thing that really ruined everyone's accuracy percentage was everyone put David Bakhtiari on the initial 53, except JJ Leahy. He read that one out and realized that he wouldn't make the 53 because he'd be on the pup. So props to JJ on that one. That was impressive. And of course, everyone got J.K. Scott wrong, and that was a last minute thing anyhow. So that was tricky. But just to wrap this up here, Don, on this spreadsheet that I made, and I might tweet out about this a little bit here, some more of the details. The 2 people who only had 3 incorrect on their roster projections, it was a tie, again, with JJ Leahy and Zach Cruz. And so just really impressive work from those guys. So that's the spreadsheet.
Well done, guys.
I love spreadsheets. I just gotta say it. Just playing around with them, man. There's those moments when you feel like a kinship with a certain person out there in the Packer community. That's like Dusty and you and me, man, right there. Hey, so speaking of Dusty, actually, this is a good segue into the couple of superlatives I had for this week. So I've got 3 if we have time for them. Don, should I hit 3 superlatives for the week?
Go for it.
All right. So my first one is going to be most insightful. So our friend Dusty Ebley, who is on the Wednesday Pack-A-Day, who does a lot of writing for a couple different websites, a lot of film breakdown, a lot of really smart, insightful stuff. That's part of the reason why he's getting most insightful here. So what I'm referring to is on this week's Wednesday Pack-A-Day, I'd actually asked the question, because if for those who don't know, they solicit listener questions through Twitter. And so Don and I are frequent question askers, actually. And so I often have been asking over the last couple of months about their thoughts about roster cutdowns and stuff like that. And they've never taken the question when I go that direction. The closest they got was last week when Matt Schneidman was on the show, and they foisted it on him to actually answer the question. So this week I asked, it was hilarious because Matt Schneidman listed one of his favorite kinds of meats as a good brick of cheese or whatever it was. It was something really weird. So cheese is not a meat. And so this week I asked, I know you guys don't like to give a 53, roster projection. So there's good reasons for that I can see, but why was it? And so Dusty had this whole long thing he went into. It was awesome. He was talking about, he doesn't see that as his kind of place in the larger Packer community, to be the guy who, analyzes that, is at training camp, is seeing all the stuff and making these predictions. And I think also what he tied into it is that for him, it's really hard to think about, guessing who's going to get a job and who isn't. And I have a lot of respect for that perspective. And I think, just getting caught up in the figures and the numbers and the statistics, it's really easy to lose sight of that. Yeah, these are people and it's their jobs, and some people are their NFL dreams are coming to an end, this week. And like you said before, really just recognizing that I think is very important. At the same time, you're celebrating the people who did make it in, but that's rough. So I think just the stuff you talked about for that was really insightful. So that's my first one. Second one, the most kind thing I heard. And so of course I'm biased here. This was on one of my favorite podcasts, I say this wrong, On Brand and Off Topic, which is Aaron Ellis, Todd Varney, and Jimmy Christensen. And this week, just apropos of nothing, Todd started talking about how he's like looking forward to hearing our podcast. And that was just super nice. He said some great things. I actually tweeted out the clip earlier this week of him talking about it. So man, Todd, man, that was really nice. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes,
that was the kindest thing I heard. And my third one is most amazing. So on Thursday's episode of Blue 58, which is the official podcast of the Power Sweep, hosted by John Meerdink. For those who don't know, guys, that is an amazing podcast, by the way. Blue 58, it's one of the most content, I'm trying to say it, like, just you learn something listening to every single episode. John Meerdink does phenomenal work with it. But this the later in the week episode was with Mark Beach, who wrote the book on the Packers. What's it called? It's called like America's Team or something like that. I should know the name. Shoot, blanking on it. But the author Mark Beach was talking about some of the like deep Packers history and got into talking about Vern Llewellyn. So Vern Llewellyn was one of the like major stars for the Packers, like back before there was a lot of recorded information about stats and stuff like that. So like in the 20s, basically. And just hearing about like all the accomplishments he had, what an amazing player he was. And it's not a name that like we think of like with Curly Lambeau, or anybody like that, obviously Don Hudson, Vince Lombardi, those kinds of guys. You don't hear this name Vern Llewellyn, but like this guy was really a huge part of the team and a huge part of the football back in the day. So definitely worth checking out more about that. Look into Vern Llewellyn, folks. Really cool. So that's my 3 superlatives for the week. Did you have one, Don?
Those are great superlatives. And yeah, I'd like to echo all of what you said. And I love that about what Dusty said, because we all have our little niche or our place. And there's so much room for someone, like as you just demonstrated, that we can learn a little about Vernon now on a different podcast. I mean, we all have our little places, and that's what I love about the richness of the Packers content out there in the media content. And I don't mean traditional, I mean media in a very general sense. So I love those superlatives. They were indeed super. I would just give you one, just to kind of, so we can wrap it up and try to stick to our 30 minutes. I'm not even looking at the clock.
I don't know where we're at.
I forgot. I totally forgot. See, we're going to make mistakes and it's okay. But I would just say the best Twitter thread goes to the Power Sweep for the epic phonetic name thread, one for each Packer. Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Great catch. Cause I probably would have missed this. I've had a couple of kind of crazy weeks not listening to as much as, well, I have a reason, right? I was having surgery. I had a major neurosurgery. So I was kind of
pretty
busy.
Good. Pretty good.
And then I got this kitten. And anyway, that has to be the best Twitter thread for the week. So that would be the best of, and I will actually be using that information. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I do a Packer bingo game that I put together for my Zooms with my family, my mother, my sister Lori, I mentioned, and whoever else wants to play, we do it. And what I do is I do it at the beginning when the 53 is set in the practice team, so that we can get familiar with all the players, their names, where they went to school, a little about them. And so the bingo, so it's not just getting the bingo name or the bingo number, their jersey number, but then I take that opportunity as I call the game to say, whatever I say about the player. But this year, I can include that phonetic name pronunciation, because I think that's really important. So deep respect for that. I love it.
It's so important, Don. like having worked as a teacher for so long, I feel like it's the most important, like basic piece of respect you can show a person is to know how to pronounce their name. So, I actually had a pinned tweet for a long time to like let people know that it's Yosh Nijman, not Yosh Nijman or something like that, So every time I heard somebody like mispronounce it in a podcast, I just like, gently, politely kind of try like tag them, be like, hey, just so you know, this is how his name is pronounced. So then, when John Meerdink hit with the series of pronunciations, I was like, great. Yes, exactly. It's important stuff. It really is.
It's all good. It's so much great stuff. And my name, people are constantly struggling with. And in Wisconsin, it's pronounced Dacquisto, but I've been out here more than half my life, and there's a lot of Spanish influence here, and it's pronounced Dacquisto.
That's
like
how I always thought it pronounced,
conquistador.
actually. Yeah, like seeing your name on Twitter, Dacquisto.
Dacquisto. And so, but then when I go back to Wisconsin and I, whatever, I order a pizza or whatever, and I say Dacquisto, they're like, what? And it's like, it's actually a common name back there. So, but I don't really care what I seriously don't care what people call me. But I do try to get other people's names right. So really quick question, Matt, has Pickett, because I haven't been as present, let's just say it that way, for the last couple of weeks. Has Twitter kind of settled down a little bit about what fans are supposed to do at Lambeau when the offense is playing? Or I mean,
that's been less of a thing. Yeah, I mean, because we're between, like, games happening in the preseason and games happening for real. That's not really in the air at this moment, but I'm sure it'll come back right at after the first game, during the first game, although with the first game being in Jacksonville, in a neutral location, who knows? I think after the first home game is really when we're going to hear a lot more about that from people. Just watching out for the fact that, like, if it's a home game, you should try to do your best to help the team. And I'm going on the side of the people who are, saying don't do the wave when the offense is on the field. Like, I think that's important, actually. I mean, speaking of somebody who has led a lot of pep bands at, like high school football games, that's, you gotta be careful about that. You gotta make sure you're making noise when you're supposed to, and like being quiet when you're not supposed to.
Right. Because all in all, that's the whole advantage of having a home game.
Exactly.
And yeah, of course, fans need to have fun, but we need to win. Yeah. Come on. Exactly. Let's get that ring this year, man. So we have to do what we have to do to make that happen. So, well, I'm going to just assume that we're at around 30 minutes. So sure. It's been super fun recording this very first episode of Hey, We Like Your Pod, because we really like your pod and we're here to tell you why. And we have so much more to say. And in terms of the kindness, also, I'm going to play a recording right now, which will speak for itself. Thank you very much, Sarah and the folks at Pack a Day Podcast. I listen on Tuesday night, but technically I believe it's the Wednesday episode. So listen up for that.
As Steve would say, the Wednesday crew.
Exactly.
A shout out to Dawn and Matt, who are two of our most loyal listeners, because they're actually starting their own podcast together. That's called Hey, We Like Your Pod. And I think it's a great idea. And it's launching this weekend on Saturday, I'm pretty sure. So they're basically just going to look at, the amazing bloggers, personalities, and different podcast writers, everything that we're lucky enough to have as Packers fans, and just kind of give out superlatives, like who had the best analysis, who was funniest, who was the weirdest. So I'm expecting us to get the weirdest, a lot of times, but no pressure there, guys. But just want to give them a shout out. They have a Twitter page. It's at Hey WLYP. So go ahead and give them a follow. They're good people and excited to see that content and, hopefully work together with them sometime. It seems like a cool concept.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they come up with.
So, hey, everyone, thanks again so much for joining us here. We're both so glad to know all of you, to be fans of you, and to have the luxury of being fans of all of course, the Packers, the NFL in general, life in general, but our great content on Packers, and to be able to chat about it for a few minutes every week. And we look forward to seeing you next week on
Hey, We Like Your Podcast. Or your pod, sorry. the name of the show. Hey, We Like Your Pod.
Love it. Well, later, Gators. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you.